Good evening. Thank you very much for inviting me on this evening to speak to you. My name is Iain Webb. I'm currently the Partnerships Manager at the Barclays Premier League. When you work in sponsorship, you get used to referring it to the title sponsored name. I may not look it, but I'm only 30 years old. And not too many years ago, I was at university and probably sitting in a similar position to you were a few years ago. I studied at the University of Worcester between 2003 and 2006 and did a mixture of sports studies and business management. I found that really quite important to choose the mixture because I got to see the sports side that we all love and mixing with how it works in a business sense. So I started to understand some theory of marketing, finance and sort of then mix it in with the sociology side of the sport. As most of you at universities become heavily involved in sports and societies, and I made a bit of a crazy idea to see if people would vote me in as student union president, but they stupidly did twice. And I spent 2 years as student union president, and I'd happily say now it was 2 of the hardest years of my life, working very long hours as a student representation, managing students, managing societies, managing the local communities, so you have a students' union here and some elected representatives. But for me, it was a great introduction to the working world. I had to be very disciplined in time management and trying to mix a student life and a work life is quite a balance. But you started to understand what people looked for in meetings and agendas and actually had to meet with some quite senior people both inside the institution of the university and in the local community as well. So after university, I came back home. I'm originally from London and decided to try and break into the sports industry. Around the time of the economic recession, there was not many jobs going or even grad schemes. So really pushed hard and started to talk to people about sport and understand. And my career's advice as a sports studies and business management student that I got from the university was to be a sports coach or a PE teacher. I didn't want to be either of those. And that was quite hard, and that was something that as a 20, 22, 23-year-old, I didn't understand that any of these jobs existed. I enjoyed watching sport, I went to it, but actually I didn't know what happened behind the scenes. I didn't know that there were analysts or medics or marketeers or finance guys or even a HR department, and that was something that I slowly started to understand as you peeled back the layers and understanding of what this sports industry is that we all enjoy working in. So started understanding what PR was. I didn't have a clue. Commercialised things, broadcast teams, event management and marketeer. And I was very lucky enough to be awarded a 3-week internship with Rapport, which is a marketing sponsorship agency. And again, walked into this very fresh, very wet behind the ears, as has been mentioned, and ended up spending 2.5 months there working on the FA Cup with Iain, the Barclays Premier League, obviously ultimately where I've ended working up, and then actually starting to deliver some activation and event ideas, and started to see what life was like in an agency. An agency life is very fast-paced, very quick-moving, but hugely rewarding as things happen, change every hour, almost every minute sometimes you feel. Finished off with working at the FA Cup final, which Chelsea won, and I'm a Spurs fan, but I even found myself applauding the goals. And because you enjoyed it so much, you buy into what you do. Everything I've ever worked on, I'm just hugely enthusiastic about it. And if that's one thing tonight, I love what I do because I find it so enjoyable. I moved on to a second internship at Generate, which is very different to Rapport. Works a lot more on the PR side and a little bit of motorsport. So very different to working with football and properties like the FA Cup and the Premier League. Trying to get stories into the national media about sort of a second-tier motorsport race was a challenge, but it's a really good challenge, and it made you work harder and try and think what could excite the journalists more if they got to ride a Ducati around a race course, and more than you try to think outside the box a little bit to get them working. So through that sort of 2, 3, 4 months, I started to build up a bit of a network of contacts. Are you all aware of the sort of like the idea of 6 degrees of separation? We know everyone through 6 people. Well, in the sports industry, that's probably you know everyone through 1 person, because we've just all been chatting earlier, and there are people that we all know and you understand it. It's a very small, unique industry, and you start to understand the people and where they move around. And you start to build up your own little contacts and networks, and you start to meet people and you understand, and you see them at an event or an activation, and you start to talking to people. And one day my phone rang, and I got offered the opportunity to go for a job interview at Fulham Football Club. So I joined Fulham in 2009. 6 months later, Diego Forlan was scoring a last-minute winner to break my heart as a newly found Fulham fan. In the Europa Cup final. But I spent 4.5 incredible years at Fulham. I had 5 managers, 2 owners, a whole raft of sponsors, and I really enjoyed going in right at the bottom as a junior executive, working on the smallest accounts that we had in the sponsorship team, and starting to understand the knowledge from around me, from the team that we worked with, and trying to understand what it was that the sponsors wanted. At the time we had LG and Nike were our main 2, so trying to understand how you want to sell almost dishwashers and washing machines through this football platform. One day we built a 12-foot inflatable pitch washing machine on the pitch, and fans got the chance to shoot through it. So it was really good fun, a great learning experience for myself. And developed my account management skills, which is something that you come to understand working with 15, 20 sponsors. Every single one of them has different needs, they have different ROIs, return on investment, and also different personalities. So the account manager at one sponsor is going to want to be dealt with and talked to in a very, very different way to other sponsors. And that's something you learn over time and understand what makes them tick. We try to remember their birthdays, what their wives and husbands are called, and their kids, and it's the small little details that when you're having a conversation you can remember that little Johnny's birthday was last week. I think people start to form a relationship with you because you care, and I think that's very important. It's not just a business transaction. We never called it sponsorship, we called it a partnership. So it was 2 companies working together in partnership. I'd never called myself a salesperson, but I started working on some new business and renegotiation. So the last 2 shirt sponsors that Fulham had, as in FX Pro, which is a Forex trading company, and our company Marathon Bet, which is a Russian-owned bookmaker. I was very lucky enough to work on that and see the actual process of sales and how that works. And you're not ringing up the phone and just trying to sell people sort of double glazing. It is a consultative sell. It's trying to find a brand that fits with you. Fulham was very unique in the Premier League. It had a very high demographic of fan base. If you've ever been to Craven Cottage, it's again unique, down by the river. A lot of the Fulham fans are more like rugby demographic, or potentially people who go to horse racing as well. So the sponsors know that, and they know they're getting something very different than they would from some of the other Premier League clubs in London. Finally, I got a chance to work on some international projects. The Premier League, as I'll come on, is a huge league to work within. Asia especially is growing, and I got some time to work out in Jakarta and understand the fandom and the excitement that people get in that part of the world about Premier League football. So, moved to the Premier League nearly 5 months ago. It looks like I jumped ship because Fulham got relegated. But as plans would ensue, I was ready to move. I did 4.5 fantastic years at Fulham, and had worked with the Premier League quite closely, other clubs and some of our current partners, and was ready to step across. So 5 months ago, moved to Gloucester Place, and my job at the moment is to manage the Barclays, Nike, EA, Carlsberg sponsorship deals. And instead of being one club, we have to manage this through all 20 clubs. So the 20 clubs in the league, obviously changes by 3 every year, are very different. They're very, some are very demanding. Some are very demanding. And it makes your job really harder because you have to understand their needs as well. So not only do they have league sponsors, they all have their own sponsors to deliver their own rights for. We work a lot with a lot of agencies. We actually work with Fuse on our Carlsberg deal, Carlsberg, the official beer of the Premier League. And it's really good understanding to work as now a rights holder, as I was at Fulham and the Premier League, to work with agencies and then brands to try and bring something come to life. What can I say about the Premier League is there's only 105 members of staff, which is actually a very, very small business for the size that you think of it. It's a very progressive business. We are moving forward at a vast, vast number of rates. The viewership figures are in the billions. The growth is huge, and even when you work with Delta Tray on our website and digital side, and we currently have 25 million Facebook followers, which is bigger than most of the clubs in the league, and we're trying to give the sponsors that sort of awareness and that sort of brand recognition. So my overview, well, I hope you hear that I'm massively enthusiastic about this industry. Anyone that ever comes to me who's a student or reached out, I'd always try and spend some time talking to them about it and giving them any sort of words of warning, probably, or advice. I think we're all on message to say it's incredibly hard work. You'll work some very long, some very unsociable hours. This Christmas will be the first Christmas that I don't have to work Boxing Day or New Year's Day because I don't have to work a match day. It's not all the glitz and glamour that it's made up to be. Although seeing sort of Vincent Company lift the trophy, it is fantastic, but that's just part of your job, and it becomes part of your day job. It's very rewarding, and I think, as the week previous said, every day is a very new challenge. That's everything for me. So as we thought I'd show a video. So we've got a video that's we started for the launch of this season. Thank you.
Even the greatest plays begin with a single word on a page. From that word springs forth great adventure. From a cast of thousands, heroes emerge, idolized by millions who wait on their every move, their every word, expecting the masters to perform. Timing, precision, grace. The dedication of rehearsal, the genius of improvisation. Some characters are familiar, while others stand in the wings and await their entrance. The best plots will keep you guessing, right up until the final page. Final word. And when next the curtain is raised on the greatest show of all, who will be there beneath the lights on the ultimate stage?